Have you noticed how everybody is driving 4x4s and SUVs these days, and nobody's got time for the humble saloon car? Well, I'm here to argue the merits of that in this rather scenic car park where, in Saloon, which is very near to Teignmouth. You can see the view out there across the Teignmouth Pier. It's very nice. And I'm here with this rather lovely Mercedes E Class to argue the case for the saloon car. Now, first of all, what I do think about these is it's a much more discreet way of going about your business. That, I think, is a rather elegant car, but it's also the sort of car that you can park somewhere and not worry about it being scratched. You can put up at the Dorchester and it would look in place and it'll slip through the traffic with nobody taking a blind bit of notice, and I think that's rather good. Now, this particular one is an AMG line, and that means a few little upgrades. So, for example, it's got the very nice 19-inch alloy wheels, AMG badges on them, and it's got the vented discs with the Mercedes logos on the brake calipers. It's got the little discreet side skirts on it. It's got ugly children glass in the back, so these rear windows are tinted, and then round at the front, slightly more aggressive front spoiler, but it doesn't look at all shouty, and I think that is rather nice. It's a smart looking car. Let's go all the way around and take a look. First of all, now there's a couple of things worth pointing out on this car. That is this badge here and this badge here, E400D. It's a diesel, and those badges will become more relevant when we take it for a drive. But let's have a look in the boot first of all by giving it a little kick up the arse. Now, you may wonder what the point of that is. The idea of that is if you have lots of bags in your hands, you can open the boot just by giving it a little touch. I can't do it without thinking of Father Ted and Bishop Brennan, of course, but nonetheless, this is the boot, and it is pretty damn massive. Plenty of room for your shopping and your bits and pieces. That looks like it does something interesting. Oh, look at that. That's a bag hook. If you've just got a couple of bags, you can hang them on there, and when you go around corners, it won't scatter your shopping everywhere. That's brilliant. Anyway, let's close that down because there's only so much boot you can take in one day. And we'll take a look at the interior, because that is a lot more interesting. Here we go. Now, the first thing to greet you in here is these wonderful sports seats. I love the way they bolster all the way around, and they are as comfortable as they look. But take a look at the dashboard, because it's all glass display. So you look across here. This is just screens across here. Those instruments are displayed on the screens. Let's close that door, and I'll talk you through it a little bit. The first thing I thought when I got into it was just how busy this steering wheel is, but it's not as challenging as it looks, because basically this side controls this screen and this side controls your cruise control, and then this does your screen in here. So let's start on this side with things like, if we touch this one here, now this is a little thing that's like an iPad controller. As you move your finger across it, you can see it changing things over here. So there's a home button, hit the home button, and then you can scroll through to, for example, your telephone, click on it, and that takes you into there. You can come back out with the back button. Let's go a bit further. Vehicle. Now this is quite interesting because there's a load of stuff going on in here. For example, a dynamic select, which is allows you to set the car up with the suspension and the steering weight and the ESP just how you want it. That's rather nice. You probably saw one on here a second ago. Let's go back. Energizing comfort. This is an interesting one. This changes the way the car reacts to you with things like the lighting and the ventilation, and you can go for different things on here. Look. So actually, let's turn that back off. It actually chooses the music for you and changes the mood of the car. Anyway, let's come back out of that. What should we have that back on? Let's go back to across to navigation. There we go, so that's your map, so you can see where we're parked there. So okay, let's come to this side. Now this is interesting. As I say, these dials don't exist. They're just on a screen. This is particularly interesting. It's a G-force meter. It's interesting because when was the last time you went on a corner and thought, I wonder how much G-force I'm generating? And even if you do, there's no actual numbers on there, so you can't tell. I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do with that information, but other than that, very clear display. And again, we've got the little touch button here, and we can scroll through. In the center you can see different functions to do with trip. But if we come back out of that with the back button, now we can scroll across. We can put navigation display up in there if we want to, like that. Or we can go across. One of the most interesting ones is actually design. Here we go. So on this one, This is the classic instruments we have at the minute. We can go to sport instruments at the top, turns them into those, again with the G meter. And then down here is progressive. It's all a bit Star Trek-ish. So now your miles an hour is in the centre there, and then your rev counter, G-force meter again for some bizarre reason. But then it can put navigation information and other bits and pieces up in there as well if you want it. I think we're going to go back to classic. I think that looks nicest. There we go. Excellent. Let's put that one back on navigation as well. There we are. What else can I show you in here? This is quite interesting. This is a cup holder, but also there's a pad here for your mobile phone, and that is actually a wireless charging pad. So if you've got a wireless charging phone, you pop it in there and it'll charge up as you drive. That's a nice thing. And then you've got a controller here. This is a pad you can actually write on, so you can actually put your destination in by writing it on there, for example. And then there's a turn controller which allows you to flick through various functions on display and then enter into them with that. And this is a black ash open pore finish, which is pretty classy. Glass roof on this one, and you can either open that by dropping it back like so, or if you have it closed, you can put a roller blind across it if you wish. Pretty cool, huh? Now this black headlining in here, again, is part of the AMG pack. You don't get that on the slightly lesser models. And then that's the back. Masses of room. Anyway, that's a quick look around. Let's go and take it for a drive. Now, one of the areas where I think the humble saloon car scores over the SUV is in the fact that it sits low to the road and it handles so much better. When you put this car through a few bends, it just seems to flow, just eats them up, and these seats then are absolutely fantastic at holding you in place. And it feels meant to do this rather than having to do it, if that makes sense. I think it's a very tidy handling car, considering it's not about sports, it's about comfort. I think that takes the bends really well, but it is a very, very comfortable car. The ride in this is sublime, and it's quiet too, really quiet. And it's the kind of car that you can put some big distances into without feeling the pain. It is fantastic. But I mentioned the 4MATIC badge and the 400D. Now those relate to the engine size. It's not a 4 litre, it's actually a 3 litre twin turbo diesel. And the 4MATIC is 4-wheel drive, and the grip that gives you, if I just put in here for a second, I'm going to give it full throttle. There's nothing coming onto an unrestricted road, and I'll demonstrate. So just floor it, no wheel spin, and that is 60. And it will actually do 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds. But what it means is the entire car is completely undramatic however you drive it. It's got loads of go, but you don't have to worry about wheel spin or the back letting go or anything like that. Even if it's raining, it just grips and goes, and I think that is a fantastic feature. And it is, as I mentioned, a particularly fast car. They limit them to 155 miles an hour to do with pretty much all of the Mercedes cars, which, let's face it, is enough. But it means you've got oodles of power there whenever you want it, and it's all in the mid-range. You don't have to rev it to get up there. You just put your foot down and it's gone. I think as a package, this is a car that just ticks all of the boxes. It's very discreet, it's very comfortable, it's extremely rapid, it's a great car for doing long distances in. There's loads of space for the family, loads of space for the shopping, but it doesn't shout like a 4x4 or an SUV. It's discreet, it's quiet, it whispers, and I think that that is the real benefit of a car like this.